Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please check out David Waters and Gators Breakdown if you want the very best in Florida football coverage. David, I look at this SEC Eastern Division. I got to kind of shake the cobwebs because I typically automatically think this is Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee's division. Those are the three teams that always compete, and then it's everybody else. But it's a different landscape. I would argue that Georgia has the biggest gap lead over any other second place, whoever that second place team is in any division in college football. They are by far the elite team in the division. South Carolina would appear to be the second best team, but Florida can catch up rather quickly, at least to that second spot. Tennessee obviously has their issues, but talent on the roster, and Jeremy Pruitt closed well in recruiting. Missouri's come back under Barry Odom. Kentucky's a decent program. Your thoughts about the division, where it shakes out, what Florida fans could expect this year?
It's definitely Georgia's division to lose in this coming up year, but they lose a lot of talent as well from last year's national championship appearance. And but, don't get me wrong, they've recruited well these last few years. Kirby Smart has that thing rolling, but we've seen a lot of coaches come in and have success in that second year and kind of fall back down to earth a little bit. So I would do kind of question how they replace Chubb and Michelle and those leaders that they lost on defense. They should be picked to win the East by a pretty good margin, but I don't see them going in the dominant fashion that they did last year and blowing almost every team in the division out and representing the SEC East in that way. I can see them still losing a game or two. And look, don't get me wrong. I've been really critical about Florida's recruiting in these last couple of years. It just hasn't been Florida standards, but it doesn't mean it's not good. There's still enough talent, especially in the starting 22, to really do something with and win some games. Also go back to what happens with first-year coaches. I think you win some games you probably shouldn't, and you probably lose some games you probably shouldn't. So I think that's kind of what Florida will be looking at in this year one. But you're right. Tennessee replacing Butch Jones, and you have South Carolina and Will Muschamp, and can they finally get the offense figured out there? Kentucky, Missouri. Missouri really ended last year on a hot streak. Can they continue that with Drew Lock? But they lost their offensive coordinator, Josh Heupel, to Central Florida. So how does that transition go? And I believe Derek Dooley's there now. So it's a lot of people.
Everybody always laughs when they say Derek Dooley. Then comes the laugh.
There's good reason for that. So, but yeah, but you have to go and look at what happened in the SEC East when Florida was winning these two division titles and representing. Jim McElwain, no longer coach, and what is going to be an offensive analyst for Michigan now. Butch Jones is not even a head coach now, and an intern at Alabama. And you have Will Muschamp at South Carolina. We know his failures at Florida. Can he get back up on the pedestal? Kentucky's always underachieving. So the SEC East was in a bad state for a while. So will the new hires of Mullen and Pruitt close the gap to what Kirby Smart did in year two last year? So yeah, right now and for the foreseeable future, it's Georgia. People will be picking Georgia to win the division. Can Florida show enough next year to close that gap and make people start wondering 2019? Can Tennessee? And man, I tell you, I looked at their schedule and there's 5 games in a row where they, I believe, have to play Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Auburn, and Alabama. I don't know how in the world Jeremy Pruitt survives that in year one. But if he can win 1 or 2 of those games, is he showing enough? I believe we have to be showing enough to get fans excited. So I believe in this first year under Mullen and Pruitt that they can, if they show enough, it can get fans excited and make people think the SEC East is on the upward trend going into 2019.
Yeah, I was looking at the SEC schedules, and I'm going to do a breakdown on this, but the Tennessee 2 games out of division, of course, they always have to play Alabama, so that's not good for them. Then they have the rotation comes up on Auburn. So they have 2 teams that went 7-1 in the conference. They've got a 14-2 non-division slate this year. And for an 0-8 team, that's not real good news.
No, not at all.
But I guess, hey, if you're going to play those teams and then play the weaker teams in the other years when they may actually have a shot at the division and they get Arkansas in a couple of years, maybe that's the way to play it.
Well, that has happened, and they still couldn't take advantage of it the last couple of years.